She was a loving mother who dedicated her life to caring for others.
You've got a young lady who is working hard to provide for her family.
She had a lot of responsibility being a mother of 5 and a nurse.
So when she reconnected with an old flame, it was finally her turn to take it easy.
You're completely caring for all of these people in your life. So it's like, who is actually caring for you?
They had dated previously, came back together, reunited. It was really something beautiful.
But now, her life hangs in the balance after a vicious attack leaves her in critical condition.
911 gets this call. This woman is panicking.
Someone ran her off the road.
Was it a violent outburst by another motorist?
They were wondering if this was a major case of road rage.
Or was she being hunted by a cold-blooded killer?
Somebody's following me. This man has been living a double life. Everything she thought she knew was a lie.
Can we please start over, quit playing games, and tell us what happened to this poor lady?
Individuals cannot think out a lie to the nth degree. There's always going to be something that trips you up.
Truth doesn't always set you free.
October 5th, 2021. It's a warm autumn day in LaGrange, Georgia, a small southern town an hour outside of Atlanta.
LaGrange Troup County is located on Interstate 85 and Interstate 185. A lot of rural area, but the town is growing.
It's west of Atlanta, but there's still a decent amount of crime.
While LaGrange police are used to dealing with common crimes, the 911 call they received this Tuesday afternoon takes them by surprise.
Troup County 911. Somebody's shooting at me.
A 911 call comes in, and it is a woman frantic.
She says someone is shooting at her.
In fact, she thinks she's been hit.
Bleeding. Oh, no.
The caller identifies herself as 28-year-old Akila Ware.
She tells the dispatcher that she's in her car and the shooter is chasing her.
Ma'am, are you in Harris County? Do you know right off the bat? Oh, God.
But before the 911 operator can pin down her location, their connection is lost.
They hear a loud noise, it goes blank.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Growing up in rural Georgia, Akila Ware had Southern hospitality ingrained in her from birth.
She loved people. She loved help. No matter what she was going through, she would give you her last.
She liked to bring everybody together. She liked to laugh. To meet Akila, you know, was to love her.
Akila's caring personality earned her plenty of friends during school. And it also inspired the career she chose to pursue after graduation.
She had actually wanted to be a nurse for quite some time. She did the RN program down at Southern Union. I spent like countless nights and days, helping her study while she was in school, and I actually helped her prepare for the board exam as well.
I never forget, she called me, "Oh, I passed the test." She was so excited.
How is my favorite patient?
Oh, doing great. How are you doing today?
Akila's job as a home health nurse allowed her to do what she loved best: spend quality time with her patients.
She loved the patients. That was her passion.
Thank you so much.
She treated those patients like they was family.
But by her late 20s, Akilah also had a family of her own to look after.
She has 5 kids. And as a single mom, that's a lot to handle on your own.
Once Akilah became a parent, her main focus was to protect her kids and always keep them together.
She was willing to put in the hard work it took to give her children a good life.
The goal was to be able to get the kids to be successful, to not go through some of the things we went through growing up.
She's working those long hours, knowing she's got to provide for her family the best she can.
But just because Akilah excelled as a single mom didn't mean she'd given up on finding companionship.
She did want love, genuine love. That was her goal, to finally be happy.
Akilah had dated different guys, but no one ever felt like the right fit.
Until one day after work, she ran into someone she'd known since high school.
Lonzo?
Alonzo Dargan Jr.
I thought you moved out of town.
I did. I live out of town. I'm actually here visiting.
Akilah and Alonzo had dated previously in high school.
After graduation, the pair had taken separate paths. Akilah pursued a career in nursing, while Alonzo enlisted in the Army.
He's doing well in the military, promising career.
This is someone who's familiar. That gives a sense of comfortability.
Hey, I'm in town for a few weeks. I don't know if you wanted to grab dinner sometime.
How's tomorrow?
Catching up with her old flame for the first time in more than a decade, Akilah felt a spark.
I'll see you soon.
He made her feel things, and she cared about him, and he cared about her.
In their short time together, Akilah and Alonzo built an unshakable bond.
Akilah FaceTimed me one day, and she was like, I want you to meet my new friend. She was like, I'm happy. This might be it.
But there was one major roadblock on their path to happiness.
He actually lived on the Army base, Fort Bragg in North Carolina.
That's a 6-hour drive.
Steadfast in their love, the young couple refused to let distance stand in their way.
He often had to travel to her, but he never missed a beat.
I'm gonna leave this weekend, so I am, yeah. So I'll be there as soon as I can.
It was good to see her happy and smiling, you know. She deserved it. Finally, she had somebody who could be there and sincere, you know.
I was like, match made in heaven, invite me to the wedding.
But instead of wedding bells, the air in LaGrange, Georgia is filled with the sound of gunshots as Akilah Ware flees an armed gunman down a rural highway.
911 confirmed that she was actually saying they're shooting at me, and we heard the gunshots in the background.
All of a sudden, the call goes silent.
So they traced back the call, and they got a hit along a remote stretch of Route 18.
She might be trapped inside the vehicle and heavily damaged.
When police arrive on the scene, the gravity of the situation immediately sets in.
She was a very violent crash. It pushed a lot of the motor and a lot of other parts out of the vehicle.
And the woman behind the wheel is in grave danger.
Akilah was trapped in the vehicle. Fire department EMS was doing their part to assess her.
But they quickly realize hers isn't the only life at stake.
They got her out of the car, and then that's when we realized,
oh, she's pregnant.
After spending years as a single mom, Akilah Ware But now the young couple's future hangs in the balance as law enforcement in LaGrange, Georgia race to save Akilah's life.
People were calling us that they saw the car off the road and were explaining to us how serious the crash was.
They had to go get the jaws of life to literally extract her from the vehicle.
We knew it was a very bad vehicle accident with injuries. But once they got her out of the car, we realized she was pregnant.
This is a critical time because not only do they have to try to save her life, they're also worried about the baby's life.
As paramedics rush Akilah from the scene, her condition is serious.
She was not really stabilized, but did the best they could to get her prepared for transport.
This is life or death.
She was transported to a Columbus, Georgia area hospital to try to save her life. They were rolling pretty quickly to get her down there.
Meanwhile, investigators from the Troup County Sheriff's Office start sifting through the rubble to piece together what happened.
This was a chaotic situation. The first officers on the scene weren't really sure what to make of this. Was this a drunk driver? Was this, did they try to avoid hitting something and run into something?
It's not uncommon for us to have serious crashes around here. We've got two major interstates, a lot of highways.
But it doesn't take long for the investigators to realize this is no run-of-the-mill car crash.
The first thing that we noticed on the car outside of the damage was the obvious bullet holes that were on the driver's side of the car. Once we saw those bullet holes, we knew this was something more than just a very bad crash.
They're just trying to figure out what is going on. Is this a road rage accident or what led up to this? Road rage in itself is definitely become something that, does end up sometimes in fatal situations. I've definitely heard of situations of people being follow home, kidnapped.
If it is a road rage, a true road rage scenario, then typically the individuals don't know each other. And so it's going to be really hard to be able to find a lead.
Was Akilah shot by an irate driver who wanted to run her off the road? Or is there another possibility?
If this was a road rage incident, you would expect the shooter to be firing wildly out of control. But that's not what they found.
It wasn't like there were just bullet holes scattered all throughout the car. It was a very, very tight pattern.
Someone who knew how to use a firearm was firing into that vehicle.
And it's clear they were shooting at Akilah.
This was personal.
This wasn't just, you cut me off, now I want to scare you. It seemed more serious than that.
But who would want to hurt a person as kind and thoughtful as Akilah? The crime scene offers a few clues.
There are several marks that's on the back of the vehicle that looks like the vehicle is being rammed on both sides of the bumper as well as a side door.
They find silver paint on the car that was in the accident. They also find a Nissan hubcap.
Hey, look what we got here.
So now they're like, maybe it's a silver Nissan we should be looking for.
So that narrows it down from any other cars out there.
I'm not sure what kind, but it's a silver Nissan.
Okay.
Then eyewitnesses offer more insight into what led up to the crash.
A number of people that had witnessed the crash and called 911 waited on the scene for police to arrive. So they were able to describe exactly what they saw.
I was traveling east, and suddenly coming towards me. There was a dark car and a silver car that appeared to be racing. And the silver car was in my lane. It hit me head on, and I had to get off the road.
Several witnesses actually said that they did see sort of a chase that was happening.
One thing is consistent across every eyewitness account. This was no act of road rage.
Seeing vehicles driving on the wrong side of the road gives the indication that this is something that progressed over a period of miles and not something that happened at the spur of the moment.
Usually with road rage incidences, there's an outburst and then it's done.
The person who did this was pursuing her and hunting her.
Someone wanted Akilah dead.
Pregnant mother of 5, Akilah Ware, has been gravely injured following a bizarre incident in which she was pursued, shot, and forced off the road by an unidentified gunman.
When we arrived, we knew it was a very critical situation.
At first, police thought this could be an extreme case of road rage. But after speaking with eyewitnesses to the car chase, they believed someone wanted Akilah dead.
This had been planned.
And by the time detectives arrive on scene, there was word from the hospital that whoever it was had succeeded.
Unfortunately, Akilah dies from the injuries.
It's a tragedy compounded by the loss of her unborn child.
They discover that one of the bullets was shot through Akilah's uterus and struck the baby, and both are pronounced dead.
Now this is a homicide. It's also a feticide at this point.
News of the terrible loss leaves Akilah's loved ones speechless.
I was in a rage, just devastated that she's gone.
We had just seen each other. I couldn't believe it. She's 8 months pregnant. She can't be dead. How?
With an armed killer on the loose, homicide investigators can't afford to leave Akilah's family to grieve in peace.
It's obviously very important at that point to try to get what we can from them.
We believe this was a targeted attack.
That doesn't even make any sense. Akilah didn't have any enemies or problems with anyone.
According to her loved ones, Akilah was enjoying one of the happiest times of her life after reconnecting with an old high school boyfriend named Alonzo Dargan Jr.
She was planning on moving out there after the baby was born.
Hearing that Akilah was in a relationship piques the detective's interest. But her family insists that Alonzo couldn't have had anything to do with this.
If he was willing to make that 6-hour drive from Fort Bragg down to LaGrange to be with her, buying clothes for the, unborn child.
Everything seemed to be beautiful between the two.
Besides, they tell police Alonzo hasn't made the trip down to Georgia in weeks.
She said that he was busy in the military, hasn't had a chance to get away.
He was not in the area at that time and could not have been the suspect.
We'll be back in touch soon. Sorry for your loss.
Investigators walk away from the conversation without any solid leads.
Homicide.
But when they hear from Akilah's best friend, Jabari Watson, a potential suspect starts to come into focus.
She had a baby father that, previously he had acted a little weird.
She got 2 kids by him. I think she had a restraining order against him, and she's talking about taking out a restraining order against him. So, he was the one of the first person that came to interest with this situation.
I informed them that, you're someone that I think you should check into.
When police run the ex's name by other individuals in Akila's inner circle, they get confirmation that the pair had a troubled relationship.
This was the aunt Akila confided with about her situation with the father of her children.
I just remember her telling me that she was afraid of him.
Okay. When's the last time she told you that?
It was around the time that it was leading up to her getting the order.
In fact, prior to speaking with Akila's aunt, detectives had already learned that just a few hours before she was killed, Akila had squared off against her ex in a courtroom custody battle.
She's gonna try to get full custody of the kids.
She had a court case this week.
She actually had it this morning. And the judge gave joint custody with her having primary. So that was the outcome of the case this morning.
Oh no, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Could it be a motive for murder?
Custody battles can get extremely ugly and drive people to do things you could not imagine.
Police believe they may have identified the man responsible for killing Akila. But before they can bring him in for questioning, they receive another tip.
The tipster turned out to be the wife of one of Akila's patients.
She has some pretty important information that they need to check out.
She said Akila recently shared some concerning information about a man who followed her to work.
This man was stalking her.
But she doesn't think it was her ex-boyfriend.
The one thing I know is that he's in the military.
Could this be Alonzo Dargan?
After learning that Akila Ware was going through an ugly custody battle with one of her exes, Georgia police believed he could be responsible for her murder.
He wanted full custody, but it turned out he ended up being crazy.
Akila changed her phone number just so she can get away from this guy so he can stop calling.
He is suspect number 1.
Where she was working.
But now a new witness has put forward another troubling possibility.
Akila worked in the medical field, and the wife of one of her patients had a tip for the police and came forward and said, I need to share some things with you all.
The woman tells detectives that a few weeks earlier when Akila was at her home, something strange happened.
She said Akila came over to draw some blood from her husband.
That poor me.
And received a text that seemed to kind of rattle her and disturb her.
I knew she had, things going on. She was talking to my husband about.
But this time, it seemed more serious than drama with an ex-boyfriend.
She says Akila immediately starts looking out the window and she notices a car with a black man sitting in it.
This man was stalking her. I know he was. We were like, how do you know where you were? And she said she don't know how he knew where she was or anything.
The woman says she actually asked her, what can we do to help you? And Akila said, it's okay, I have it. But finding out what happened to her now, she really felt like she needed to come forward with this information.
Was Akila's stalker the father of her children, trying to intimidate her before their upcoming custody hearing?
Investigators are asking her, well, Did she ever go into detail about who this person was?
So the only thing I know is that he's in the military, and I know his first name starts with that A. That's all I know.
It's information that takes the investigators by surprise.
The ex-boyfriend that they're investigating, his name did not start with the letter A, but the name of Akila's current boyfriend does.
Is the woman describing Akila's long-distance boyfriend and father of her unborn child, Alonzo Dargan Jr.
I don't know if he's facing, I can't remember if he's facing Virginia or North Carolina. It was one of them two.
So now they're trying to put all together like, maybe this is Alonzo that they're looking for.
But according to Akila's family, Alonzo hasn't been to Georgia in weeks.
North Carolina is a long ways away, to drive all the way to Columbus just to pop up at someone's job.
This seems a little far-fetched, especially if you take into consideration how strong their relationship was. But detectives know they need to eliminate Alonzo before they can move on.
They start by contacting his commanding officer in the U.S. Army.
He was an active duty soldier, and so our team was able to contact Fort Bragg.
Hello.
Over the phone, the commanding officer tells police that Alonzo is one of his best soldiers.
He had a good record as a soldier, was on the up and up with them. There was nothing that, quote unquote, red flags that showed up as someone kept on doing this.
He didn't have prior convictions, acts of violence that you often see when somebody commits a murder.
Have you noticed any unusual behavior from Alonzo lately?
Has he failed to report for duty?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
He actually stepped out on leave earlier this week.
We did learn that he did get a leave off of base.
Do you know why he took that leave? He had a family issue and he needed to take care of that, but he did come back in earlier this morning.
The fact that Alonzo has been away for the last 2 days grabs the detective's attention.
Once we realized he did actually leave base, that time frame fit. And so all of that was really coming together.
Could Alonzo have been in Georgia after all?
After discovering Alonzo had taken leave, the detectives decided to level with his commanding officer.
The investigators let the commanding officer know that they are questioning him about Alonzo because he is a suspect in the murder of his girlfriend and unborn child.
His girlfriend?
Yes.
Akila where? I don't understand.
He was confused.
The commanding officer is like, well, that can't be possible.
Hey, babe.
Because Alonzo Dargan is a married man with a family already that lives on base.
Oh, boy, I missed you.
Investigating the murder of Akila Ware have just learned that her long-distance boyfriend, U.S. Army Sergeant Alonzo Dargan Jr., has been hiding a secret family on his military base in North Carolina.
Where the baby's at?
Investigators are shocked because they're like, whoa, Alonzo Dargan Jr. has been living a double life.
The entire time Akila and him was together, she thought she was the only woman he had eyes for. Come to find out, he had a whole nother family.
What you been doing all day?
Investigators believe they've uncovered a clear motive for Alonzo to want Akila dead.
Once we learned he was married at the time, had a child with this other lady, that's when the ball started rolling in that direction.
Akila was 8 months pregnant, and the house of cards that he built was about to come crashing down with the birth of that child.
He wanted to kill her before she had the baby.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Hoping to turn up evidence to support their suspicions, Georgia investigators asked the military police for a copy of Alonzo's vehicle registration records.
On military bases, soldiers typically have to register their personal vehicles so they can get in and out of the security gates surrounding the facility.
They find out Alonzo drives a silver Nissan. This is the other car that they believe was involved in the death of Akilah.
Using Alonzo's license plate number, investigators are able to track his movements while he was on leave.
There are things called flock cameras that catch tags just driving down the interstate. They're at different places, and law enforcement agencies have them set up, and so you can track somebody's movements if you know their license plate.
It was actually determined that he was in LaGrange at that point. And then they felt strongly enough to arrest him.
While military police take Alonzo into custody, Georgia investigators make the long drive to Fort Bragg to meet with their suspect in person.
We worked jointly with the Army to detain him and start the initial questioning.
At first, Alonzo appears to be cooperative.
Are you willing to talk to us?
But when the police asked him when was the last time he had been in Georgia, he said it had been weeks.
When was the last time you was in LaGrange?
17th of last month.
17th last month? What were you doing there?
Training, and I actually visited her.
You went to visit who?
Akilah.
It's a statement the investigators know to be a lie.
I know that you've been in LaGrange, True County, Tuesday.
I wasn't in LaGrange on Tuesday.
You wasn't in LaGrange?
No, sir.
He initially, denied being down here. And I think that kind of was a window into how he thought he would get away with this.
I can prove, from my gas, my checking accounts, my knowledge of my vehicle. That shows that I did not have my vehicle there.
He said, prove it, prove I was down there.
That's when detectives lay the evidence out in front of him.
Okay. I can prove to you with cameras that your vehicle was there. You were in LaGrange, Georgia on Tuesday, and you murdered this woman and your unborn child. That's your car. So can we please start over, quit playing games, and tell us what happened to this poor lady and this precious child that was gunned down and murdered?
Once they showed him evidence that proved that, he stopped talking.
I'd like a lawyer, sir.
While Alonzo refuses to come clean, the recording of his interview is still damning evidence against him.
That interview can be played to a jury. And if a jury's finding out that you're lying, that all but shored up that case really quick.
But just because police can prove Alonzo is lying doesn't mean they can convict him of murder. For that, they turn to his wife.
Hello, ma'am. Are you Mrs. Dargan?
Yes. What is this about?
Investigators start speaking with Alonzo's wife and asking her about knowing about this woman, Akilah.
No. They were hoping when she found out the full extent of everything that was going on, she'd give them what they needed to put Alonzo away.
We have reason to believe that your husband was having an affair with her.
When they explained everything that has happened, she is shocked.
She was recently murdered.
It was absolutely devastating and alarming for her to hear that Alonzo had been cheating, that he had been building a whole nother family.
But she insists that her husband is no killer.
Well, you're obviously mistaken. Alonzo is a good man. He would never cheat on me, and he certainly would never kill anyone.
She was uncooperative, and maybe that's just her being instinctively defensive of her husband.
Regardless of her reasons, investigators will need more evidence to move forward with their case against Alonzo.
So the next action step was to impound the car.
They were thinking his vehicle might contain the physical evidence they were needing to connect him to the crime.
When police execute their search warrant, it seems like they may be right.
Alonzo's car did in fact match the damages on Akila's car.
The hubcap is missing. There's the paint from the other car.
But the most shocking evidence of all comes when the investigators look under the back seat.
They found a spent shell casing from a 9mm handgun.
It was the same caliber of bullets that they retrieved from Akila's body.
Yeah, that's it.
That is what sealed it.
Seat of her married boyfriend's car, police are confident they've arrested the right man.
This is a tale of a man that lived a double life, and when getting caught up in efforts of trying to protect his marriage, he killed someone.
News of Alonzo's arrest takes Akila's loved ones completely by surprise.
Once we heard and got confirmation that it was Alonzo, we was very, very shocked.
It was mind-blowing to me. Alonzo was supposed to be different. Supposed to be somebody who cared about her, the kids.
Somehow, Alonzo managed to pull the wool over everyone's eyes.
And it's like, oh, he's married. What? She did not know that. She wasn't nobody who was messing with him on the side.
If they was late night creeping and cheating, I would have been like, it was wrong, but it wasn't the situation.
He put it out there. He wanted to marry Keila. She was not a side woman.
While it may be hard to believe, investigators are convinced their case is airtight.
We knew we had the right guy. It was clear he did it.
And less than a week after Akila was gunned down, Alonzo Dargan Jr. is officially charged with her murder.
There were several charges: malice murder, felony murder, feticide, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime.
The charges are very hefty on this one.
The malice murder as well as the felony murder both hold a death penalty. Feticide carries a life sentence as well.
With his life on the line, Alonzo decides not to take his chances in a courtroom.
His defense attorneys looked at the case file, they looked at the facts, and then he did take what plea was offered to him.
As a condition of his plea agreement, Alonzo is required to provide a full confession of his crime.
At that time, Alonzo confessed to the murder of Akila Ware.
Akila?
He starts by revealing that his motive was exactly what police suspected.
Alonzo was trying to protect his marriage by getting rid of his girlfriend and their unborn child.
With less than a month before Akila was due to give birth, he knew he was running out of time.
When that child came, he knew all his lies were going to be exposed.
Somebody's following me.
After taking leave from his post at Fort Bragg, Alonzo drove more than 400 miles to LaGrange, Georgia, to kill the mother of his child.
You had 6 hours to drive and think and possibly turn around, possibly change the narrative, but you stuck to it. That is scary.
He said that he drove from Fort Bragg and was waiting outside of Akila's home for her to leave for work.
He followed her around that morning, his cell phone hitting every signal that she hit.
When Akila realized she was being followed, the situation quickly escalated into a high-speed chase.
There was some swerving that happened as he was following behind her, some switching of lanes. And at that point, he opened fire.
He shot at her car. Then he ran her off the road, knowing that she was 8 months pregnant.
He actually rammed into the back of her vehicle, tail spinning the vehicle out of control, and eventually it hit a tree.
Alonzo didn't bother to stick around to make sure the job was done.
He booked it out of there and sped back to Fort Bragg.
Hey, baby.
As if nothing had happened.
He thought he was gonna be able to go home and get away with it and just live a normal life.
Alonzo's violent actions are almost too monstrous to comprehend.
Like, she was ready to uproot her whole life, her kid's life, to move, to be with him. Like, it just, we did not see this coming.
Was calculating and planning. You're a cold-hearted killer.
On January 27th, 2023, Alonzo stands before a Troup County judge and pleads guilty to all of the charges against him.
Under Georgia law, if you're sentenced to consecutive life sentences, in this case, once for the murder of the victim, once for the feticide of the unborn child, the law requires you to serve 60 years before you're parole eligible.
He'll be 90 plus years by the time he's eligible to be able to be released from jail.
But for the people who loved Akila Ware most, no amount of time can make up for what Alonzo took from them.
60 years is still not enough because your family can go and see you.
After multiple relationships ending in failure, she was looking for the right man to spend her life with.
She's trying to find people that will give her the love that she so greatly desires.
Eventually, she met a man that was just as gorgeous as she was.
She thought there's still hope for me, and I'm gonna seize this moment.
But a violent encounter turns her fairy tale romance into a horror story.
Her body was found in a ditch.
There are numerous stab wounds.
Whoever did this wanted to make sure that she suffered.
The search for a suspect leads detectives in multiple directions.
She was involved with a lot of different romantic interests.
Did arguments ever get physical?
Yeah, but that happens sometimes.
They couldn't have a civil conversation. It was very volatile.
I be telling, be careful who you're dealing with.
He is an individual that sort of has put himself in a savior position.
But would her savior eventually become her downfall?
There's a thin line between love and hate.
She's cursing at me. You ain't doing this, you got that.
Over time, you start to need the high.
It's like having the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder.
I believe that she was possessed by some demon.
It's a warm Sunday morning in Delray Beach, a quaint coastal town along Florida's Atlantic shore.
Delray Beach is actually a much different vibe than some of your more common places in South Florida. Delray Beach is a much slower pace.
You see people fishing, you see the boats in the canals. That's kind of what people are about, just the natural beauty, the relaxation, the water.
But around 9 a.m. this morning, a local resident is traveling along a remote stretch of road when he spots something unusual.
He noticed something that looked suspicious in a ditch. And as he got closer, he did realize that it was a young lady.
He sees her laying in the grass, unresponsive, and, he's not sure what's wrong. He contacts 911.
First responders race to the location.
Protocol when someone's unresponsive is to get to the scene as soon as possible, because there's a possibility that person still could be alive.
They had no idea if this woman was having a medical issue or what was going on.
When Palm Beach County deputies arrive on the scene, they quickly realize they're too late to help the young woman.
The police get there, and it becomes immediately apparent that obviously she is deceased.
Her body was cold to the touch, so police knew that she had been dead for some time.
At that point, you realize there's no saving this person. Now your job is to preserve the scene.
And as deputies begin to secure the area, they notice something lying near the woman's body.
There was a wallet on the ground next to the body, and inside of that wallet, police found a ID card.
They quickly identified who she was.
Her name was Vanessa Williams.
28-year-old single mother Vanessa Williams had a smile that could light up a room.
She was this beautiful young lady.
She was very social and enjoyed spending time with her friends.
Ambitious and caring to her core, Vanessa had always dreamed of becoming a therapist. But a relationship from her teenage years with a handsome classmate named Nate Tyler had taken her on a different path.
They were high school sweethearts who were very much in love.
Vanessa was so certain that they would go the distance that she even got Nate's name tattooed on her neck. But when she got pregnant, it caused a lot of friction between the two of them.
The stress of teenage parenthood was too much for their relationship to bear, and the couple parted ways soon after the birth of their son.
On her own, as a single parent, she resolved to give her son the best life she could manage. But she kind of had to put her dreams of becoming a therapist on hold.
She was a wonderful mom.
Vanessa managed to finish school while juggling motherhood, but instead of going to college, she jumped into a relationship with a new partner, a man named Stuart Bird.
After graduating from high school, she pretty immediately fell in love with another man from town. They moved in together, and he started helping her with her son.
Well, hey there. How is work?
Oh, busy.
Stuart seemed like someone who would take care of her. He had a lot of love for his family, and that was something that Vanessa really appreciated about him.
They talked about getting married and having kids together.
But it was another union that wasn't meant to last.
Their relationship eventually became a little bit toxic.
They split up after 3 years together.
By her mid-20s, Vanessa once again found herself struggling as a single mom.
She went on with her life, trying to pick up the pieces, but she never gave up on love.
She's trying to find different people that will give her the love she so greatly desires. And she's meeting disappointment after disappointment with the types of men that she's involved with.
Finally, in 2011, Vanessa met a man who seemed different from the rest.
Excuse me, miss?
Yeah.
I think you dropped this.
Oh, thank you.
John Chapman was a handsome military veteran, young, fit, knew how to present himself.
They were two very good-looking young people who immediately were attracted to one another.
I don't mean to be too forward, but do you think I can get your phone number?
Sure. Yeah.
Fell in love. They started dating.
Vanessa felt like she'd finally found a relationship that would last.
Things were going really well for Vanessa this time around.
With John's help at home, she was able to focus a little bit more on herself. She was working as a medical assistant during the day and taking classes at night so that she could work towards her dreams of becoming a therapist.
But now, instead of seeing her dreams come true, Vanessa Williams has been found dead in a secluded area of Palm Beach County.
Police quickly went into trying to find out what had happened to this beautiful young lady.
They weren't sure if this was some sort of accident or if she was out walking when maybe she suffered some type of medical emergency.
When detectives arrive on the scene, they move in for a closer look at Vanessa's body.
When the police turn over the body, there are numerous stab wounds on her face, on her neck, on her back.
Vanessa was stabbed over 23 times. Whoever did this wanted to make sure that she suffered bad.
Williams finally found a man to stand by her side.
You have John as this military man, and he looks refined, and he's showing himself in a way that, hey, I'm strong and I can protect you. And this is the kind of strength that she's looking for.
The happy couple was looking forward to a bright future together. But now, Vanessa has been found dead on the side of a remote road in Palm Beach County.
It's the beginning of the investigation. They don't have all the information, but from what they've seen so far, this appears to be gruesome, violent.
They were able to determine that Vanessa had been stabbed 23 times.
The question now is, why?
They find money. They find jewelry. Her chain is still on her.
The fact those property pieces that were still there with her indicated not a robbery.
They believe that this is a personal attack. This was someone who had malice and anger, and they took it out on Vanessa Williams.
However, due to a lack of blood pooling, investigators suspect that the violent stabbing didn't happen here.
Law enforcement concludes that she must have been killed somewhere else and brought to this location.
It almost looked like there was an intent to try and hide her location, maybe a hasteful intent at best.
There are other things there that indicate that they left in a hurry. They see an indentation from where a tire was. They find a flip-flop.
It looked like when Vanessa's body was dragged out of whatever vehicle it was in, all this other debris got dragged out with her.
One item in particular stands out to the investigators.
They find a floor mat from a vehicle that's soaked in blood, and they really want to know, whose blood is this? Does this belong to the victim?
is also potential evidence for DNA from the assailant. Most stabbings or cuttings, the person who is the attacker will typically injure themselves.
Detectives spot another crucial piece of evidence left behind by Vanessa's killer.
They find a wooden-handled knife that looks like it could be the murder weapon.
After the evidence is bagged and sent out for testing, Vanessa's body is transported to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy.
Judging by the degree of lividity in Vanessa's body, the medical examiner believes that she had been dead for about 24 hours.
Lividity is the accumulation of the blood in the lower extremities of the body.
A blood test reveals another surprising new piece of information, that at the time of her death, Vanessa had a street drug known as Flocka in her system.
Flocka came in, I believe, around 2015, 2014 in the Florida area here. There was a lot of reports of crazy behavior, zombie-like behavior, aggressiveness, extreme strength.
Flocka took bath salts and it was manipulated, and it gave you a much more intense high and hallucinations, and anybody could pretty much get their hands on it.
Immediately, law enforcement are thinking that maybe this was some drug deal gone wrong. Maybe this was a drug user who had crossed someone.
Armed with this new information, detectives begin trying to learn more about who their victim was.
One of the things that they observed that the medical examiner told them about was that there is a tattoo on the back of Vanessa's neck, and the name of that tattoo was Nate.
Vanessa's social media appears to confirm that she had a man in her life around the time she died. But his name isn't Nate. It's John Chapman.
One of the first places police look is to the boyfriend. He is a former military guy, someone that police can identify with.
When police spoke with John, he was devastated to find out what had happened to his girlfriend. He said that she was a wonderful mom, a great person.
I hate to be the one to tell you.
John strikes the detectives as sad, but not especially surprised.
I was afraid something like this might happen.
He said she had some habits that she had fallen into, involving drugs and alcohol.
John tells the police that Vanessa's drug use had been getting worse lately. A lot worse.
It started out, I just had a long day at work, and I just need a little something to take the edge off. But over time, you start to need the high.
Vanessa had her struggles. And with her having children, with her having the responsibility of being a mother, of being a partner, trying to co-parent, there are certain things that contributed to her drug use.
Vanessa, seriously? This is getting way out of hand.
John Chapman told them that Vanessa had been out of control, and in one of those drug and alcohol fueled incidents, she left.
How about you stop telling me how to live my life?
He said she had taken off without telling him where she was going.
He tried to call her to figure out where she was. He couldn't get in contact with her.
I thought that I was gonna be able to see her again, but...
Do you know anyone that might want to hurt her? Drug dealer, ex-boyfriend?
I know she had issues with her ex.
John actually shared with police that Vanessa's relationship with Stewart was extremely toxic. They couldn't have a civil conversation. It was very volatile.
They had some mutual friends and would run into each other from time to time. And Stewart would always try to weasel his way back in.
She couldn't fully get away from this guy.
And according to John Chapman, Stewart Bird had a history of domestic violence against Vanessa Williams. He had attacked her in the past, and of course, John felt like he would do it again.
I didn't trust her, and I know she didn't either.
He told the police that that's the place where they should start looking.
John was adamant that Stewart Bird had something to do with this.
Vanessa Williams' boyfriend, John Chapman, has just told Palm Beach County Police that she was battling drug addiction in the months before she was murdered.
Vanessa was a mom, a student, a healthcare worker, and unfortunately, she had turned to substances to deal with all of the stressors in her life.
Before you know it, we're self-medicating. And so where someone may say, you know, that could never be me, before you know it, it is you.
According to John, Vanessa had been behaving increasingly erratically in the weeks before she was killed. And shortly before her body was discovered, she'd complained about running into her ex, Stewart Bird.
After getting this information, police immediately went into the background of Stewart, and they discovered that he had an extensive record. He had burglary, domestic strangulation, grand theft, and child abuse.
At that moment, Stewart Bird became suspect number one.
But when detectives bring Stewart in for questioning, he seems shocked.
Stewart denied having any responsibility for killing Vanessa.
What? No. Listen, y'all have the wrong guy.
However, he does acknowledge there were moments in their 3-year relationship he's not proud of.
He admitted that things got pretty heated between them.
Did arguments ever get physical between the two of you?
Yeah. But that happens sometimes.
With that relationship, there was domestic violence.
It shows his ability, his possibility of creating a violent scenario with Vanessa.
They want to know, where were you on the night of April the 18th?
According to Stewart, he has an alibi for the night Vanessa was killed.
Stewart Bird tells them, well, I was working all night. He gives them the name of his employer.
You can call my supervisor right now, he'll tell you.
Police were able to contact his employer, who confirmed that Stewart was definitely at work on the night that Vanessa was murdered. So now they're back to square one.
Eager to drum up new leads, police shift their focus to the people who knew Vanessa best.
Vanessa's parents lived about an hour away in Miami, and while they were still grieving the loss of their daughter, they were ready to talk to detectives.
Vanessa's parents were devastated. It is extremely heartbreaking as a parent to know that your child was killed.
Vanessa's parents tell detectives that their daughter had a long history of troubled relationships.
I always tell them, men, it wants only your money and something else.
Right.
And I be telling them, be careful who you're dealing with.
So in cases like this, either you have a lot of suspects or you have nobody. And this case had a lot of suspects. She was involved with a lot of different romantic interests.
Vanessa's parents also confirm what John Chapman said in his interview about Vanessa's rampant drug use.
She went used to drugs.
You know what kind of drugs? Cocaine?
No. That I don't know.
she was dealing with a lot. It's like having the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder. I have my responsibilities, but I don't know how to cope.
Vanessa's parents say the last time they saw their daughter was about a week ago when she stopped by for a surprise visit.
What time was that? Around 5 something. 5:30.
What kind of car did she have?
She didn't have a car. She said it's her friend's car. She was driving a truck.
What kind of truck?
White, I think white, I don't know, it's a Ford.
The truck was alleged to have belonged to Corey Summers, a friend of hers.
But other than Corey's name, Vanessa's parents know nothing about him.
I met it once.
Okay.
After Vanessa left in Corey's truck, her parents never heard from her again.
I started texting her, but I never had no response from her.
Did you call her after that? Did you ever, after that point, talk to her again?
Never.
Based on this information, investigators want to speak with Corey Summers as soon as possible.
The question now was, did Corey have a reason to want Vanessa dead?
Her parents, Florida detectives, have learned that Vanessa Williams was last seen driving her friend Corey Summers' truck around the time she was killed.
Did you ever, after that point, talk to her again?
Never.
When detectives reach out to Corey Summers, they're surprised to hear he's been waiting for a call from law enforcement.
Have you the phone?
What's that?
Have you phone?
Corey thought the police were calling about his truck, the one that he had allegedly let Vanessa borrow.
Corey explains that he's a long-haul trucker who'd been out on the road until a few days earlier.
When he came back from one of his long-haul trips on April 17th, his truck was missing. There was a police report made.
When detectives explain they're calling under graver circumstances, Corey seems grief-stricken.
Here's the deal. We're working on a homicide investigation. Vanessa's dead.
I don't believe it.
He agrees to come into the police station to give an official statement.
Corey confirmed that he and Vanessa were friends. And he said he allowed her to stay at his place after she and her boyfriend John got into a huge argument about her drug use.
She asked me to stay. I told her okay because I don't ever hardly ever be home.
He says that Vanessa has stayed with me from time to time. I've allowed her to crash here when she's needed to. I'll see her, and then I'll go out on the road for several days, and then I'll come back.
Corey insists the relationship between them was entirely platonic.
One of the things I gotta ask you, were you intimate at all, you and her?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
Corey, he is an individual that sort of has put himself in a savior position. He tries to help people. He's trying to help Vanessa, trying to give her a place to stay.
They had an arrangement where Corey would allow Vanessa to use his pickup truck while he was out on the road.
She doesn't have the transportation to get him back and forth from work.
Okay.
So I told her to use my truck. Just be careful with it.
But the last time he got home, Corey says Vanessa and his truck were gone.
Vanessa was missing, and his apartment was in shambles, as if there had been a struggle or a fight going on in there.
I know she had company, but I don't know who she had there.
He didn't know what happened. He tried to reach out to her. He couldn't get in contact with her.
In speaking with Corey, he seemed to be very forthcoming, very cooperative, very willing to help the police, but they are not sure if they are able to trust him.
Again, I gotta ask you this because if it comes out later on, I want to make sure we're clear. Did you guys have any intimate relationship between you two?
A long time ago.
When was that?
Last month ago.
But before you told me that you didn't.
We're not really sure if there's a relationship there. Maybe, maybe not. So you have to look at that. Was he jealous?
But Corey insists he wasn't even in the same state at the time when police believe Vanessa was killed.
I was in Georgia.
You were in Jersey?
Georgia.
At the end of the interview, Corey agrees to turn his cell phone over to police.
We need your phone just to make sure everything checks out.
Sure, okay.
And while it's sent out for analysis, detectives track down the last name on their list. The father of Vanessa's oldest son, Nate Tyler.
Although he and Vanessa broke up years ago, they were still on good terms for the sake of their son.
They were extremely close, although they were only platonic.
And according to Nate, the last time he saw Vanessa, she'd confided in him that she was struggling.
You know, she had been telling me things weren't going well with John, her boyfriend. And she'd been staying with some other guy, Corey, I think.
Yeah, we've already talked to Corey.
Nate tells the investigators that on another occasion, he'd witnessed the tension between Vanessa and John firsthand.
There was an incident that Nate shared with police where they were all hanging out and something transpired that really ticked John off to the extent that he started throwing furniture, became vulgar, got very violent.
It was shocking, you know? It happened out of nowhere.
Did Vanessa say these type of outbursts happen often?
Yeah, she did.
She told him that John was abusive, that John would go fly off the handle for different reasons.
She confided in Nate about all of the threatenings, the stalkings, the verbal abuse, the beatings that she was getting.
Based on what they're hearing from Nate, detectives have to wonder, has John been misleading them all along?
At this point, getting out there, finding John, and getting face-to-face with John is very important.
But when detectives try to bring John Chapman in for another round of questioning, they quickly hit a roadblock.
They'd say, we gotta pick this guy up and talk to him again. But there's only one problem. He's gone. He's on the run.
In the spring of 2015, Palm Beach County investigators have had no shortage of suspects in the murder of 28-year-old Vanessa Williams. So far, they've spoken with her ex, Stuart Bird, close friend, Corey Summers, and even her high school sweetheart, Nate Tyler. But unfortunately, all three men seem to have airtight alibis.
Thanks to phone records, police were able to confirm that their three prior suspects had not been in the area at the time Vanessa was murdered.
Stewart was confirmed to be at work, and Corey in Georgia. And Nate was out of town visiting some friends.
However, in speaking with Nate Tyler, investigators have unearthed a new suspect. A man they're already familiar with, Vanessa's most recent boyfriend, John Chapman.
According to Nate, Vanessa had confided in him about her very tumultuous relationship with John.
John had been abusing her, both physically and verbally.
She was trying to get away from John. She was trying to cut ties with him.
He conducted himself in a way that was reckless, dangerous, and possibly deadly.
Detectives want to speak with John Chapman again as soon as possible, but they'll have to find him first.
He's gone. He's on the run.
He wasn't at home or at work. He wasn't answering his phone.
Detectives think John may be traveling in Corey Summers' missing pickup truck. And before long, they receive a promising tip about the stolen vehicle's location.
There was actually an APB put out on Corey's truck, and they found it in front of the home of a Lana Palmer.
Lana Palmer is alleged to have been romantically involved with John Chapman. They had an on-again, off-again relationship between the two of them.
By the time police respond, the truck is gone.
They go in there, no John Chapman, but they do find Lana Palmer.
Can I help you? When they questioned Lana about the truck in front of her home, she admitted that John had come by.
The last time that she saw John Chapman, on April the 18th, he came there driving a white truck, clothes covered in blood.
John? Oh my God, what did you do? He was very bloody. He looked like he had been through just too much, and showing up to her home, asking for refuge, if you will.
She asked him, "What happened, John?"
He said he'd been fighting with someone. I could tell he was lying, though.
Baby, I had to defend myself.
He told her that he had gotten into a fight with one of Vanessa's ex-boyfriends. She didn't believe the story, but since he was acting so weird, she just allowed him to come inside, take a shower, and clean up.
Okay, just go rinse all that off, please.
But after John washed up, Lana witnessed more strange behavior from him.
She saw him take a SIM card out of a phone and rip it in half.
She realized that there was something awry here, and the story that he was given just didn't line up.
I don't know what you're up to, but I want you out. Told him to get out, and he did.
Do you have any idea where he may have went?
No, not a clue.
She said he took his things and he left.
Lana insists she hasn't seen or heard from John since that night. And with no other leads on their suspect's location, investigators are back at square one.
They start to intensify their efforts to find him because the clock is ticking.
As an investigator, you need to get to John as soon as possible.
Police reached out to law enforcement agencies in the surrounding areas to be on the lookout for John. They also enlisted the aid of the U.S. Marshals to help look for him.
Soon, their efforts pay off.
Eventually, they got a tip that the truck had been seen in Miami.
The tip led them to an apartment complex where they found the truck parked outside.
And inside the truck, police make an alarming discovery.
There's blood everywhere.
Based on the amount of blood, police believe that this may be where Vanessa was killed.
They found a green purse that they thought must have belonged to Vanessa, as well as a flip-flop that matched the one found at the body's dump site.
Now more than ever, investigators know they need to track down John Chapman.
Investigators go door to door looking for John Chapman. They don't find him anywhere. But what they do discover is near to that apartment complex is a homeless shelter.
Inside the homeless shelter, police finally locate John.
As he's getting dressed, they take him into custody. The police have their man.
Back in Palm Beach, detectives are eager to sit down with their number one suspect.
They immediately started peppering him with questions about what had happened to Vanessa, and to their surprise, he didn't hold back.
Vanessa was
She wasn't herself at all. I had to kill her.
John finally confessed to the murder.
But that's not all he says.
He tells them that it was in self-defense. He said she attacked him with a knife.
I believe that she was possessed by some demon.
Of his 28-year-old girlfriend, Vanessa Williams.
They take him into custody and they start to question him.
Now in the interrogation room, John has just made a stunning confession.
She wasn't herself at all. I had to kill her.
He tells them that it was in self-defense.
I would hate to say that I'm a spiritual person, but I believe that she was possessed by some demon.
John tells the investigators it all started when he went to see Vanessa at Corey Summers' house on the night of April 18th.
Let's start with what led to this. Drugs.
He showed up at Corey's place to discuss their relationship and found her out of her mind on drugs.
When I got there, I realized that there was a lot of meth in the carpet.
Vanessa, what the hell are you doing?
He found Vanessa Williams searching the carpet for Flocka flakes.
He says now that he realized how deep an addiction she is, he realizes that he no longer wants to be with Vanessa.
John, can you help me?
He says it disgusted him that Vanessa Williams' drug use was so out of control.
John tells detectives he was ready to leave soon after arriving, but he was stranded.
He'd gotten dropped off at Corey's house, so he needed a ride back home.
I just wanted that ride back to Cape Coral. And I'm like, hey, let's have fun. Let's go ahead and let's hit it back to Cape Coral. Let's party.
When you say that, with drugs, everything?
Yeah.
John, with his narcissistic personality, realized that Vanessa was battling an addiction, and he was using that to control her.
On the drive to Cape Coral, the couple stopped to get some fast food. But as the sun set and they finished their meal, they got into a tense argument in the restaurant parking lot.
John was upset with Vanessa about her drug use, and Vanessa was upset with John in regards to the way he had been treating her in the relationship.
She's cursing at me, telling me, you ain't doing this, you got that.
Eventually, John says he had enough.
I really just wanted her to feel what I felt. I don't know how to say it. I just really, I pulled her hair, and it was just gonna be like a tussle.
Right.
But what I didn't notice that she had been struck with a little small knife.
He said she tried to attack him.
He had to wrestle the knife away from her.
When she went for that, I hit her right on top of the head. Okay. And I was like, don't you dare do that. And then, honestly, I snapped.
He became completely overwhelmed with rage.
It was quick and it was insane.
You know how many times you snapped? More than once?
The problem with that story is as soon as he got the knife away from her, there was no threat anymore. You don't go back and plunge it 20 other more times in her chest after you take control of the knife.
And instead of getting help, he dumped her body on the side of a remote road where he thought that no one would be able to tie the crime back to him.
John blames his military experience for the extreme violence of his attack.
John is claiming he went into defense mode as though he was still in the military.
My training kicks in. Okay. All the emotions locked into robotic.
My army training kicked in. It's not an excuse to kill someone. Besides that, John admitted he started the physical altercation. So in reality, Vanessa was the one defending herself when she grabbed that knife.
John Chapman, at the end of their investigation, was booked and charged for murder.
At trial in January of 2018, the jury agrees with investigators. John's murder of Vanessa can't be chalked up to self-defense.
In the end, his self-defense was not bought by the jury. They found him guilty of second-degree murder, and the judge sentenced him to 48 years in prison.
John was very lucky that he was not sentenced to death and that he wound up being convicted with second-degree murder. That was because in the state of Florida, if it's a crime of passion, you can get second-degree murder.
Vanessa Williams will never get the chance to see what her future might have been, all because of the rage of John Chapman.
Vanessa was trying to turn her life around and have a better future for herself and her children.
Vanessa may not have been the perfect person, but she was really doing her best and trying to get back to a good place.
John Chapman was deceiving to many, and unfortunately, he deceived Vanessa Williams into thinking he was a good and decent person, someone she could build a family with, someone she should have a relationship with. And unfortunately, it cost her life.
Children.
He enjoyed the responsibility of being a father.
He loved those kids so much.
Until a brutal attack leaves him on the brink of death.
He was stabbed in the chest.
You don't believe it, but it was real.
Was it a cold and calculated assault?
Stabbing is so personal.
Or a warranted act of self-defense?
She felt in danger for her life.
They painted him as someone who was troubled, angry, aggressive.
You're wondering if what they're saying is accurate?
The truth is tangled with the two women who love him most.
He claimed both of them.
You never know what people are really capable of.
Emotions are a real serious thing that can't be played with.
No!
Somebody decided, if I can't have you, nobody will.
Thanksgiving weekend in Asbury Park, New Jersey, an up-and-coming small town on the Jersey Shore.
Asbury Park has wonderful seaside hotels and condos, extraordinary restaurants.
In the last 15 to 20 years, it's experienced a renaissance, and the old homes and hotels have been restored.
But not very long ago, Asbury Park was good.
It's a lot of drugs in that area, a lot of opportunities to get in trouble.
So when a 911 call comes into Monmouth County Dispatch around 11 that Sunday night, law enforcement is ready for anything.
911, what's your emergency?
My boyfriend! He's been stabbed!
When Monique Moore calls the police, she's panicked.
Monique told police that her boyfriend, Joey Wilson, was badly injured and needed help right away.
Okay, where was he stabbed?
In the chest!
Okay, I want you to apply pressure to the wound.
And there was a neighbor there who was helping render aid to Joey as he lay bleeding on the floor.
He took his shirt off and put it on top of his and waited till the ambulance came.
Judging by Joey's condition, the ambulance can't get there soon enough.
Joey was having trouble breathing and he was starting to lose consciousness.
You're talking about a person that's stabbed. So we have to get there as soon as possible.
Please send somebody quick! I don't want him to die!
29-year-old Joey Wilson Jr. had a knack for looking on the bright side of any situation.
Joey is a big jokester. He liked just anything to make people smile.
He was always the life of the party, really. Always trying to make somebody laugh, saying jokes.
He was just likable. Just a person that you could get along with. A person that doesn't come around very often.
And in high school, Joey had earned a reputation for being a major flirt.
He started to date around. He was like the playboy. Everybody wanted to be with him.
Joey could be with one girl one day and then another the next.
Joey was for sure a ladies' man.
But that changed when he met a young woman who stood out from the rest. Natasha Johnson.
She was working at McDonald's and he showed up and saw this beautiful girl back there. And they started talking and all of a sudden they came by the house. Oh, this is my girlfriend.
It was very different to see because I never heard him call anybody his girlfriend before, ever.
For his family, it was like meeting a whole new Joey.
I remember one day he called himself, wanted to surprise her. I honestly did not think he could cook. And he made her lasagna. She walked in, he had the lasagna done, flowers on the table, dinner set. That was a cute moment.
Thank you very much. You did all of this for me.
All for you, baby.
Before long, the young couple was inseparable. And after 2 years of dating, they received some exciting news.
He called me. He was really excited. Mom, Tasha's gonna be a mommy, and I'm gonna be a daddy too.
The birth of Joey's son was the happiest day of his life.
Joey was so nervous, but then he grabbed the baby and he slept with him that night. It was beautiful, beautiful.
That's when it clicked for him where he really wanted to make this a family.
3 years later, another child followed.
He was happy. He loved those kids so much and always had them in his arms.
He's that type of dad that you'll see on the floor, growling like a dinosaur, just trying to make his kids laugh.
But Joey's love for his children wasn't enough to sustain his relationship with Natasha.
When you start dating someone that early in life, it can be hard to make the relationship work in the long run. And like a lot of young couples, Joey and Natasha had started to grow apart.
At the time, he just wasn't ready. But that love that he had for her was always there.
For a while, Joey struggled to cope with the end of his 8-year relationship with Natasha. But when he met a new woman named Monique Moore, he thought he could finally see the light at the end of the tunnel.
She was the preschool teacher for the youngest child.
That's where they met. Because Joey used to go pick up the boys.
It's a good day. I mean, you're in here all day with these kids and you still look so gorgeous.
He flirted with her maybe a couple times, and then the exchange of numbers happens.
It was the first time Joey felt like himself since his breakup with Natasha.
They were really into each other. They were super happy.
It was in the early stages, but he felt like this was someone he could go the distance with.
But now Monmouth County Sheriff's deputies are responding to a 911 call for Monique Moore and find Joey lying on the ground outside her apartment, clinging to life.
One of the neighbors is there supporting her, trying to put pressure on Joey's chest.
When paramedics arrive, they quickly realize how serious Joey's condition is.
The victim wasn't conscious at the time. He was having trouble breathing.
He was fighting for his life.
But before Joey is whisked into an ambulance, his girlfriend Monique makes a stunning statement to police.
What happened?
I didn't mean to do it. She says she's the one who stabbed Joey.
Joey Wilson made a fresh start with a 24-year-old preschool teacher named Monique Moore.
Monique was a preschool teacher for his youngest son.
He was a natural flirt. The exchange of social media happens, and it was going on for a little while.
But now, the budding romance has been struck by tragedy.
He'd been stabbed. They're working on him, but he's not looking good.
There's a possibility this guy wasn't gonna make it.
And before Joey can even be loaded into the ambulance, Monique makes a shocking admission.
What happened?
I didn't mean to do it.
She said it was an accident.
While Joey is rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery, police pull Monique aside and try to figure out how this could have happened.
Ma'am, it's okay. Calm down. Tell us what happened.
Shockingly, she immediately admits that she's the one who stabbed Joey, but not because she wanted him to die.
It was self-defense.
I never meant for this to happen.
According to Monique, the evening started off innocently enough.
He came over for dinner, as he had done many times.
We were just talking. I had baked him a pie.
But in the course of their conversation, Monique says an argument arose.
She said he had borrowed a phone of hers and was supposed to return it that night, but was refusing to do so.
I don't have your phone.
Well, what'd you do with it?
Monique continued to argue with him, asking him, essentially, give me my phone back.
Joey insisted that the last time he saw the phone, it was in Monique's car.
Well, then go get it.
He went outside, checked her vehicle, but he came back empty-handed.
When he returned, seemingly he was in some kind of rage.
It's not in there.
Yeah, I know. Well, are you gonna tell me what you did with it or not?
I already told you. I don't know what you're talking about.
And they continued to argue about this phone.
That fight becomes a breakup, and he's like, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. He grabbed his stuff, and he goes to leave.
But Monique wasn't about to let her boyfriend walk out on her, and she blocks him from exiting the apartment.
Get out of my way. No. Get out of my way.
No.
I'm leaving.
And it's at that point that Joey started to beat upon her.
She said he came at me, he attacked me.
She described a pretty brutal encounter. He was choking her, her head had been banged on the floor.
Monique says she was scared for her life.
She grabbed for the closest thing she could find.
It was the knife she'd used to cut the pie.
And she plunged it into his chest.
I still can't believe this happened. I can't believe it.
If Monique's story is true, then police believe she's the true victim in this crime.
If you were to believe what she was saying, she was the victim of a domestic abuser.
She has endured the anger and rage of this man who came at her, and she had to stab him. She had to. It was the only way she could spare her life.
Based on the violent attack she described, police recommend that Monique see a doctor right away.
Well, we're going to have another officer take you in for an evaluation.
They made sure she went to the hospital, and she was taken to the ER.
You're gonna have her checked out and treated, and just to see if she has any bruise marks or anything.
While Monique is transported from the scene, investigators speak to the neighbor who helped her perform first aid on Joey.
Of course, law enforcement's going to ask him questions and ask him about what he may or may not have heard.
Yes, sir. Can you walk us through what happened here this evening?
Well, I heard her and her boyfriend getting into it.
He heard a lot of screaming and arguing, and it was apparent that Joey and Monique, they were fighting.
The situation quickly got out of hand.
Joey came outside at that point screaming.
Then he bust through the door and he was calling for help. So I went to see what was going on.
He did see blood on his shirt, and when he got up close to Joey, Joey just collapsed because of the stab wound to his chest.
While Monique dialed 911, the neighbor tried to stop Joey's bleeding.
I've never seen so much blood in my life.
His account of what happened that night seems to line up with what Monique had already told them.
By all indications, this was a case of domestic violence that spiraled out of control.
They're dealing with a woman who found herself attacked by a man and defended herself.
They're thinking it's an open and shut case.
But that changes the moment detectives arrive and step inside Monique's apartment.
Nothing was disturbed.
She said they got into a fight in here.
That's what she said.
It didn't seem like there was a struggle. It didn't seem like there was anything out of place. It is all still in perfect condition. Not a push, not a shove, not a glass knocked over.
There's no way that if he really was fighting with her, nothing was moved around in the house.
After being stabbed in the chest by his girlfriend, Monique Moore, 29-year-old Joey Wilson is in the emergency room fighting for his life.
According to her storyline, her boyfriend tried to attack her.
Joey flew into some rage, and Monique then stabbed him in self-defense.
She was a damsel in distress. I had no other choice. He made me do it.
At first, police had no reason to doubt Monique's claims of self-defense.
When law enforcement approaches scenarios like this, which involve alleged domestic violence, they're highly sensitive and gives that alleged victim a lot of leeway when it comes to investigating these scenarios.
You had Monique being the one to call 911, and you had a neighbor corroborating her story. It seemed like everything was above board here.
But now, Monmouth County detectives have found evidence inside Monique's apartment that appears to contradict her story.
What was odd to the law enforcement officers who arrived on the scene, everything seemed to be in relatively good order.
This woman has this almost pristine dining room table set up close to the area where the knives would have been, and it is all still in perfect condition.
If he's attacking you and you're doing everything you can to get away from the situation, you're gonna have things knocked over, you're gonna have things out of place, you're gonna have obvious signs of a struggle.
The crime scene didn't appear to line up with what was verbalized to them initially. So you kind of raised a couple of eyebrows.
You're gonna start looking at the situation a little bit different, like what do we have here?
Investigators hope that the only other person present in Monique's apartment that night will be able to tell them.
They're hoping Joey will be able to regain consciousness and clear up all of their questions.
As detectives head to the hospital to check on their victim, Joey's family isn't far behind.
3, 4 o'clock in the morning, my cousin called me and was like, Joey's in the hospital. I'm like, what? He's like, everybody's going to the hospital right now.
While they wait for Joey to come out of surgery, his loved ones hold out hope that he'll pull through.
I'm like, oh, he's just stabbed. He'll be all right.
I still thought he was gonna make it through.
But when the doctor comes to speak with them, It's not the news the family was hoping for.
They did everything they can do and he's passed away.
I didn't believe it. I was like in denial.
You're like, no, this can't be true. But it was real. It was real. Really real.
It was all just terrible.
As terrible as Joey's death is for his family, it's also a major setback for the investigators working his case.
Now, they're not going to be able to get Joey's perspective on what happened that night.
But they still have another path to figuring out if Monique is telling the truth.
They decided to request the reports from the doctors who treated her to see if she had injuries lining up with what she reported to police.
In domestic violence scenarios, they're expected to see some previous injuries and surely to see some fresh ones.
Instead, they see nothing at all.
There's no scratch marks.
There was no evidence of bruising. Not even the slightest of bruise. Not even a healed over bruise.
She suggested that he grabbed her and smashed her head against the floor, yet her CAT scan shows no trauma to the head whatsoever.
That preliminary examination didn't reveal anything that would have backed up or supported the brutal beating or encounter that she had with Joey.
Police also failed to turn up any evidence that Joey had abused Monique in the past.
There was nothing in his background that would support him being a violent man.
If none of that exists, we have to start looking at what really went on here and start asking some other questions.
And homicide detectives intend to get answers to those questions right away.
As soon as Monique was released from the hospital, they brought her in for another line of questioning.
We just want you to walk us through what you already told the officer earlier, okay?
Okay, sure.
As they talked to Monique, slowly, surely, and increasingly, her story starts to shift.
It isn't anything major, but some of the details do change.
He was just looking around the apartment for my phone.
So he didn't leave the apartment to go down to the car?
No, just looking around the apartment and getting angry.
It's almost like a child that gets busted in a lie. She's changing the narrative to fit her new narrative.
It's enough to arouse the detective's suspicions even further. But is Monique intentionally lying to them? Or is she simply misremembering what happened?
In a certain light, her behavior might look pretty suspicious, but on the other hand, this was a traumatic moment, and it makes sense that she might not remember everything perfectly.
Investigators have no hard evidence to contradict what Monique is telling them. However, when a new witness comes forward, they feel confident that Monique isn't giving them the full story.
They get a call the next morning from the woman who claims to be the mother of the children of Joey Wilson, Natasha.
She told police that on the night Joey was killed, he went to Monique's apartment to break up with her.
And she says she knows this because Joey was getting back together with her.
Monique wasn't his girlfriend. She was a side chick.
Girlfriend Monique's claims of self-defense.
We had a woman who initially portrayed herself as a victim, but her story didn't check out.
There's no injuries, there's no head trauma, there's nothing that suggests that the decedent was violent and the damsel is in distress.
And now, the mother of Joey's children has come forward with a stunning new claim.
He didn't want to be with her. Joey wanted to be with me.
He was going over there to break it off with her, to get back with Tasha, to, make it good with her now.
If that's true, it means Monique had a clear motive to attack her boyfriend.
We might be dealing with a jilted lover who has decided, if I can't have you, nobody will.
Natasha tells investigators that when she and Joey first got together, it was the best time of both of their lives.
We were in love. Like, that was his woman. You couldn't tell him nothing about Natasha. Like, she was the best thing ever.
They looked so happy together.
But after years of commitment, Joey's curiosity got the better of him.
Joey sometimes stepped out on that relationship.
He wanted to be faithful, but he wasn't mentally mature enough to be there yet.
This thing with women, they kept being drawn to it because he got a rush from it.
That's what a lot of the turmoil between them two was.
Despite Joey's betrayal, Natasha couldn't bring herself to break things off with him.
He kept on, no, I'm gonna change.
And she loved him, like, for real.
But 10 months ago, she says she reached her breaking point.
I got a feeling that he was fooling around with the kid's teacher, Monique.
This was someone they knew, someone they interacted with on a daily basis. So as far as Natasha was concerned, that was taking cheating to a whole new level.
Monique!
She thought something was happening, so much so that she confronts her.
I need to know if you're messing around with Joey. So what if I am?
Monique, without pause, confirms that they are in fact having a relationship.
What is the matter with you? Joey is his own man. He can do what he wants.
After her confrontation with Monique, Natasha gave Joey an ultimatum.
He's gonna have to make a decision one way or the other. Who's it gonna be?
It's you, baby. It's always you.
Then you better not ever do this to me again.
They had the conversation and the confrontation, and he ended things.
Just 8 months later, Natasha began to suspect that Joey and Monique were at it again.
She started to notice Joey acted a little weird, Monique acted a little weird. She thought something was happening.
When Natasha confronted Joey, he confessed and promised to change his ways. But this time, she was through handing out forgiveness.
Her or me, we are done.
Hold on a minute.
I want you out of my house today.
Tasha was sick of it.
Get out!
She was not having it.
Natasha tells investigators that Joey took the breakup hard.
He was like not thinking that she was really going to be done with him.
But she could see that what was a blow for Joey was a victory for Monique.
Online, she was like boasting like they're in a relationship, she's in love with him. That was a way to prove who she is to the world and to Natasha, that I'm here to stay.
Monique thought she had won. But according to Natasha, Joey never really moved on from their relationship.
Less than a month after Natasha ended things, he was trying to win her back.
He said, I'm gonna show Tasha that whether she's gonna be with me or not, I'm gonna be that father for the kids and we're always gonna be family.
He was showing up when he said he would, being consistent with his word, bringing flowers for no reason, just those soft, subtle things that made Natasha feel like his word was his bond and she was safer to let her guard back down again.
At first, Natasha was skeptical, but eventually she realized something in Joey had changed.
He was starting to become a man, where he would actually notice his mistakes and have actual apologies for things he did instead of that typical playboy, I don't know what you're talking about.
And by Thanksgiving, Natasha was ready to give him a second chance.
He's there for Thanksgiving dinner. Their boys running around here and everything is cool.
You know I'm glad you're here, right?
There's no place I'd rather be.
It was time for him to, quote unquote, if you will, grow up and stop stepping out on this relationship.
You know I love you.
I love you too.
They recommitted, rededicated themselves to one another during that time.
But there was one problem. Joey hadn't fully ended things with Monique.
A couple of days after Thanksgiving, he told Natasha he was going over there to end things.
Even sending Natasha a text saying, "My heart belongs to you. I'm done. I'm going to go make this right tonight."
When he went to Monique's apartment on that evening, his sole purpose was to sever all ties with Monique.
Isn't it odd that the night he goes to say it's done, he ends up dead?
The mother of Joey's children has just told police that on the night of her boyfriend's murder, he was heading to his side chick's apartment to break up with her.
While Joey and Natasha were broken up, he'd been hooking up with the woman named Monique Moore. But he was going to cut off that relationship.
He said, "I'm going over to end things."
He was going to tell Monique that he wanted nothing to do with her because he was going to work on his family.
Homicide detectives suspect that may have given Monique a motive for murder.
All of a sudden, he's walking away with someone else, building a family. And for Monique, it's, you're not gonna have all of this and leave me like this.
Natasha also tells investigators that from her experience, Joey isn't a violent man.
They talk about the domestic violence that Monique suggested happened, and Natasha is vehement. I've loved this man a long time. I've known him, and he doesn't have this behavior in him.
We all knew that it wasn't true.
She's saying he's not perfect, but he's innocent. He didn't do this. And so Natasha is fighting for his reputation, even from the grave.
But can investigators trust what she's telling them?
It's possible that Natasha had a reason to lie. Maybe she just wanted to protect Joey's reputation, or maybe she wanted payback for Monique stealing her man.
Police need more than one woman's word to charge their suspect with murder. So they decide to expand their interviews to the rest of Joey's family, starting with his father.
Joey's father was close with his son.
Joey confided in you with his past relationships. What did he say?
Even though Joey was seeing Monique, he wanted to be with the mother of his kids.
Joey was focused in on being with Natasha, being with his two sons, and having his family.
Because Joey wasn't sure how to fix the situation, he had turned to his father for advice.
His father gives him some wisdom, basically saying, be honest with everybody involved. Be honest with Natasha, and if that's who you really want to be with, tell her where you've messed up, and then break it off with Monique. Try to do it gingerly, try to do it gently, but you gotta end this.
On the day his son died, Joey told his father he was going to take his advice and make things right with Natasha by ending things for good with Monique.
This was something Joey wanted to do. He wanted to, if you will, start living right.
Has your son ever had a problem with his temper, particularly with the women in his life?
Absolutely not. I raised him better than that.
Like Natasha, Joey tells police that his son would never raise his hand against a woman.
That didn't make sense to Joey's father, not at all. That wasn't the young man that he knew.
I don't care who she is, I don't care what she says. This is not my son's behavior. So now you got two people supporting the same perspective.
As word of what happened to Joey spreads through the community, more people come forward to defend his character.
In fact, everybody that law enforcement interviewed regarding Joey and his background, it just didn't line up with his behavior. His public behavior was quite civilized.
They say if anyone was abusive in the relationship, it was Monique.
It was a few occasions where Monique used to get very angry. He was kind of joking about the whole, yeah, she broke my phone and she slapped me.
One of her friends said that she texted her and said, if Joey breaks my heart, I'm gonna stab him.
She had put her hands on him before, where enough so that even his coworkers told him, this girl is crazy and she may kill you one of these days. They're like, you just kind of need to leave her alone.
To the investigators, it sounds like Monique's love for Joey had grown into an obsession.
She got a little too invested in him where he was her everything. It's like almost like finally my Prince Charming. Like this is the love of her life and this is who she's gonna be with.
Joey's about to call this thing to an end. Now the embarrassment that you feel with your family, with your friends, you're not gonna do me like this and get away with it type of attitude comes into play.
When Joey decided to end their relationship, did Monique decide to end his life?
It's certainly starting to look like this is something that she could be capable of.
But with no witnesses, no confession, and no hard evidence, investigators have no way to prove it. Until the results come in from Joey's autopsy.
They realize that Joey has been killed by this knife that punctured both lungs and his heart.
Other than that, there wasn't a scratch on him.
It's looking a lot like murder, not self-defense.
After reviewing Joey Wilson's autopsy report, Monmouth County detectives are now convinced that his girlfriend's claims of self-defense are a lie.
There is not a single defense wound from Monique on him except being stabbed in the chest. No scratching, no fighting, no thing where she is suggesting that she was fighting for her life. So her story has completely unraveled.
It's the last piece of evidence police need to place her under arrest.
She was formally charged with the murder of Joseph Wilson Jr.
The detectives tried to question her again, but this time, Monique lawyered up.
Even without a confession, Joey's family feels confident that the investigators have cracked this case.
From the very moment I heard her side of the story, I knew that it wasn't true.
When Monique goes to trial on March 11th, 2022, Joey's entire family is there to face her.
We were at every court appearance.
When prosecutors deliver their opening statement, they try to make it clear that Monique was no innocent victim.
You had a defendant who again portrayed herself as a victim. But when law enforcement spoke to other individuals about who Joey was, there's no evidence that he was a violent man.
According to the prosecution, Monique's decision to stab Joey was motivated by rage and jealousy, not self-defense.
Joey went to Monique's house that day to call it quits, and she did not like the news.
It's over, Monique.
What are you talking about?
He told her he was getting back together with Natasha.
She knew the family situation, but she also wanted what she wanted.
You can't do this to me, Joey.
It's already done.
What? When you have that type of situation, that connection can become infatuation, and then it can become obsession.
An obsession so intense that Monique decided she would do anything to stop Joey from leaving.
That's when she snapped, lost it.
there happened to be a knife close by, and she grabbed it.
She plunged that knife in his chest.
Prosecutors don't think Monique intended to kill Joey.
She may not have wanted him to die, but she wanted him to feel it.
I think Monique's intention was kind of to scare him, to scar him.
But her intentions don't change the outcome.
Now she's watching blood gush out, and the shirt is starting to soak with blood, and she realizes they need to get help there immediately.
She knew she had to come up with an explanation. And she's pretty quick. She came up with a story.
Monique told first responders that it was Joey who started the altercation.
She said Joey was the violent one.
The prosecution believes that everything the investigators uncovered supports their version of events.
There were no defensive wounds on Joey and no wounds on Monique. Plus, there was no history of domestic violence.
They were telling us that it was looking good on our end.
But when it's the defense's turn to present their case, they introduce a surprising new piece of evidence.
Someone made an anonymous phone call to her lawyer and told him to look into this incident that had happened.
Joey had beat up Tasha's brother and broke his nose like 10 years ago.
At that time of the incident between Tasha's brother and Joey, her brother had been stealing his stuff. Just like stupid stuff, but then his Xbox. And I think that was like the last straw.
According to Monique's attorneys, the incident is proof that Joey was capable of the type of violence that might have made their client fear for her life.
The defense really painted him as someone who was troubled, angry, and aggressive.
They did have a fight, but it wasn't like that.
The brother actually hit Joey first and broke his nose, and then he retaliated and hit back.
The defense was really reaching and using the example between Joey and Natasha's brother to paint a person as an abuser because of a tussle really is unfair.
Nevertheless, the tactic pays off when prosecutors start second-guessing the strength of their case.
Prosecutor got little cold feet.
So they decide to play it safe.
They asked my aunt, do you want to offer a plea deal? And she's like, you know what? This has been going on for so long. I just want to be done with it at this point.
I told the lady, I need to go on with my life. I can't live like this no more.
We were under the impression that it would be up to 10 years.
On March 18th, 2022, Monique agrees to plead guilty to reduced charges.
Monique Moore, who had been on trial for second-degree murder, facing 25 to 30 years, ends up getting a deal that gets her charges reduced to aggravated assault.
But when the judge announces her sentence, it isn't what Joey's family was expecting.
They gave her 3 years. 3 years? 3 years is nothing. If I kill somebody, you gonna give me 3 years too?
It does seem that a sense of justice or closure was robbed from Joey's family.
While Monique will be free after a few short years, Joey's loved ones will have to grapple with what she took from them for the rest of their lives.
And the mother of those children is now going to have to raise those children without the father.
A father that was there for them, a father that showed up for them, a father that was constantly a positive presence.
His youngest son missed to really get that connection with him because he was so young, but his oldest definitely misses the lack of Joey. Him and Joey were like right-hand man.
It's just a colossal loss on also many levels.
When Monique chose to stab Joey Wilson Jr., she took more than just his life. She stole his entire future.
I just want people to know, like, he is a good guy.
Đây là những cái tập con ten kia để 3 giờ thì cái tập VF mình để tầm 5 giờ cái nhỉ, căn 5 giờ mới tập con ten thì lại khoảng độ từ 8-9 giờ sáng, một tập nữa tầm độ 3-4 giờ chiều như đấy. Nó chia nhau ra thì đừng có nhiều khi dúi lên một loạt video một lúc khoảng vài tiếng lên một đống, rồi vài tiếng sau nó lại chả có video nào lên. Sau này là kênh nó đang có view đều đây đúng không? Hay là cái kênh gốc này của nó như làm đi mười mấy triệu view rồi hả? Không phải kênh gốc rồi. Cái này phải làm 2 tuần trước rồi nhưng khả năng ngược đấy. Để tiêu đề cái đó gì
nó toàn ấy thì ở mình cũng không để lốt đâu. Avatar có để lốt được nhưng mà ở đây nó không được để lốt.
Em sợ nó đi mẹ view lắm phết.
Còn thì đây vào trang thì sao được